We are going to expand on our easy dough recipe and make some gorgeous and delicious braided cinnamon buns. If you are a fan of cinnamon rolls, these are right up your alley. You are going to love this recipe and it's not very expensive to make. In a large bowl, we're going to add in a bit of sugar. You need 2 tablespoons or 25 grams. You can use any kind of sugar you like, and you can also cut it in half if you're watching your sugar intake, but you really don't want to do that in a cinnamon bun. You also need some instant dry yeast. 1½ teaspoons or 4.5 grams. For flavoring and structure, we add a little bit of salt, 1/2 teaspoon or 2.5 grams. Now if you want more salt, you can double it, but we really don't recommend it for this recipe because it's already going to take a little longer to rise. You then add in the milk, 3/4 cup or 180 milliliters. From fat-free to full fat, lactose or milk substitutes, they all work really well with this recipe. To speed up that rising process, we want to warm it to 110 degrees Fahrenheit or 43 degrees Celsius. Now you don't have to warm the milk, but you will have to expect that dough to take a long time to rise. For fat, we are using both oil and butter. We're going to use 2 tablespoons of oil, 30 milliliters, and you can use any type of oil you like. We always use canola oil because it's cheap and it's easy to get. We then add 2 tablespoons or 28 grams of softened butter. You can use salted or unsalted, margarine, vegetable oil spread, lard, and even vegetable shortening goes well in this recipe if you don't have butter. And if you noticed, there is no egg in this recipe. As we said before, eggs are becoming quite expensive these days, and we want to make this affordable for everyone. For our last ingredient, we need the flour. We're using all-purpose or plain flour instead of bread flour as we want a soft and tender bread, and we want to make this cheaply. You need 2 cups or 300 grams. Mix this all together with your hands or the handle of a spoon until it becomes a shaggy dough. If you want to use a stand mixer, it's perfectly fine. Just use the appropriate speed and you're going to mix it until it stretches easily without tearing. That's about 8 to 12 minutes. However, since we love making bread by hand, we're going to turn this out onto a clean work surface and begin to knead. The butter may have not incorporated and it may be in a little lump. It will start to seep out on your work surface as you knead. This is completely okay. Just keep working the dough and it will pick up and blend in as you go. One easy way to knead is to grab the end furthest away from you and fold the dough over. Then using the palm of your hand, you press down and away. Pick up the end, fold it toward you, press it away. Repeat this process until it's nice and smooth and stretchy. You can use one or both hands. This can take anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes or even longer if you're new to bread making. Don't worry, you'll never overwork this dough by hand. You want to knead the dough until it's soft, it no longer sticks to your hands, and it's very stretchy like you see here. Once you have kneaded the dough, you want to put it back in the bowl, cover it with plastic wrap or a damp cloth or even a lid, and let it rest until it doubles in size. This can take anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, even longer depending on the temperature in your room. For the filling, we're going to add 1/2 cup, 113 grams of brown sugar. If you don't have brown sugar, white sugar works fine here. To that, you're going to add in 1 tablespoon of flour, that's 9 grams. The flour helps this stay in place and not seep out all onto the bottom. Then we're going to add in our cinnamon. We're going to use 1 teaspoon of cinnamon or 2 grams. Now you can add a little bit more if you like, but don't add too much or it becomes bitter. Mix this until it's well combined and set it aside. You need a muffin tin and you want to generously butter or use nonstick cooking spray. Now do not use spray on nonstick surfaces as it will damage the finish. But don't rely on nonstick surfaces to let this bread come out. Because we're using brown sugar, it will caramelize and it will want to stick to the pan. You're going to set this aside while you prepare the dough. Either pat out or roll a rectangle that is approximately 10 by 18 inches in size. That's 25 by 46 centimeters. It doesn't have to be exact, but you do want it pretty close to this size. You're now going to spread butter evenly on top of the rectangle of dough. You need 3 tablespoons or 42 grams of softened butter. Once you have the butter all spread out, you're going to sprinkle on your cinnamon sugar mixture. Do it in a nice even layer. I like to leave a little gap on the edge, about 1/4 of an inch or 6 millimeters. And then we are going to fold this dough into thirds. We're going to bring the first third toward the center, and then we're going to bring the bottom third up to meet the first fold. Now that you have it folded, you are going to cut this into 12 equal sections. If your rectangle was exact, each piece will be 1½ inches wide. That's 3.8 centimeters. If it wasn't exact, just measure the dough and cut it into 12 equal portions. After you have the 12 equal portions, you want to cut 2 vertical lines in each section. Stop 1/2 inch, 1.2 centimeters from the top. You will now have a total of 3 strips of dough in each section. They should also be approximately the same width. If you measured correctly, each strip will be approximately 1/2 inch or 1.2 centimeters wide. If you didn't measure exactly, just try to make each strip 1/3 the width of the section. Spread apart the 3 strands so it's easier to braid. Take the far left of the 3 strands and place it on top of the middle strand of dough. The middle strand now becomes the far left and the far left becomes the middle. Pick up the far right strand of dough and then you're going to place it over the new middle strand. Repeat this process of picking up the left and then picking up the right until the entire section is braided. Starting at the end of the braid, you're going to roll up and place the seam side down into your muffin tin. You want to repeat this for all 12 pieces of dough. It sounds more complicated than it is. It's just going to take a little practice to do this. You now want to cover this and let it rest 30 to 60 minutes or until it's double in size. Then preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 180 degrees Celsius, and then remove the cover and bake them. You want to bake these anywhere from 17 to 24 minutes or until they're golden brown. The center temperature should reach 190 degrees Fahrenheit or 88 degrees Celsius when they're finished. You want to remove these immediately to a wire rack to finish cooling, but you have to be careful. The sugar is piping hot. Let these cool down for a good 10 to 15 minutes before you try to eat them, or else the sugar will burn the roof of your mouth. If you want to make a topping, you can make a really simple one with a cup or 125 grams of powdered sugar. To that, you add 1 to 2 tablespoons of water, 15 to 30 milliliters. You can also use milk if you want, and then 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. You add just enough water or milk until it's a nice consistency. Now, one thing you can do is make it a little decorative. You can place this into a plastic baggie and then cut off the edge and then just kind of zigzag it on top like I'm doing here. Let's open one of these up. Aren't these the cutest little things you've ever seen? They are adorable and they are just fun to eat. And they are so fun to share. Everybody seems really surprised the first time they see them, and they're even more surprised when they eat them. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Thank you for watching, and as always, happy baking.